You're listening to Guys on the Sideline podcast, where you'll hear opinions, predictions, and sports takes in every direction. If you're a diehard sports fan, this is the place to be. They've never played. They have no experience, but they have plenty to say. And now, here are the Guys on the Sideline.
Hey, everybody. Welcome on into Guys on the Sideline, the podcast. This is episode 24, and we're coming up on celebrating our one-year anniversary. Hard to believe, but Guys on the Sideline is taking the nation by storm, and today we've got a great episode. And why do we have a great episode? Because I'm joined in the booth today by not one co-host, but two permanent co-hosts, and they would be one, Chris Mumford and Matt Griffin. What's up, guys?
Hello.
What's up, Jeff? It's my new favorite thing to see you navigate the politics of your co-hosting gigs and all that.
I tell you.
It's just like Jeff's own political, personal crisis that I'm so happy to be a part of.
Well, as of late, it's gotten hard to navigate, wouldn't you say? One time I said something about Chris being we welcome back our I can't even remember. Our fill-in host or something like that.
Our minor contributor and once in a while co-host.
And I don't think I will ever hear the end of that. But anyway, Chris, I bring the crazy. You bring the level-headedness, if you will.
There's a long pause before that.
Well,
Trying to decide what you want to say. Again, it's the politics. I understand.
All right. And Matt, good to have you in from Tennessee.
Back from Tennessee.
How you doing?
Good. What are the odds that this show would last a year when you started it?
Do you want me to answer that? Because, I mean, clearly.
When you started it,
100%.
100%,
don't you think?
Okay.
No, I think it's very true. I think when people start, and I've listened to a lot of podcasts and done a lot of research, and there's a lot of podcasts that have 2 episodes.
Yeah.
And so for us to have 24, pretty cool. Now, the question is, if you record a podcast and no one listens, is it a podcast?
Yeah, is there like a golden ratio out there? Like, you should have more listeners than you have podcast episodes. And I'm not sure we have eclipsed that yet. So we need you, everyone out there, to tell your friends.
Please subscribe.
We're really not doing anything to win over sponsors here.
Oh, that's true. Hey, that's year 2's strategy.
I'll tell you this: when I'm in Tennessee, especially when I'm cutting the yard, I really enjoy listening to this podcast.
Oh, brother. That's how people can get through this podcast, right? Either mowing the lawn on double time, I on a layover, something like that. Well, today we're going to be talking about what are the odds. So thanks for that setup, Matt. And we'll also get into NBA free agency. It's the last week here of June, which means I think July 1, right? I mean, June 30th at midnight.
Yeah.
Going into July 1st, teams are able to sign free agents.
Off to the races.
We're gonna talk a little bit about that. And as those that know from listening to this podcast, we'll take a tangent or two.
A left turn. Here or there.
It's just who we are.
Yeah.
So, and that's why we're growing. That's why we're trending. Where are we trending, by the way? I always tease this out.
The greater Salt Lake City area, for sure, and I think maybe Nashville. I know my girlfe's listen, so you've got at least one.
Does she listen?
One regular listener
you're just
there.
Lying to me.
I'm not.
Well, she's only listened to a couple episodes, but we're glad to have her. We're growing in the demographic of the 13 to 14-year-old category.
Yeah,
Chris, I teased that out. Max listened to every episode. He's 13. Used to coach his basketball team, and I learned that not only has he listened to every episode, but I think he's listened to every episode either 2 or 3 times. So that's why our numbers are just off the charts in certain.
Max, we thank you.
Mac,
sorry. Pardon me.
Thank you, Mac.
Edit that out.
Thanks, Mac.
We can't alienate our one fan.
So, all right, you guys ready to get into this?
Let's do it.
Okay, let's do it. All right, so I have compiled, as you hear, Matt, do you hear what I'm doing there? That's my list of odds. So what are the odds? And the reason we were talking about this, Matt's in from Tennessee. You were out here, you were in Anaheim
3 weeks ago?
for work
Yeah.
a couple of weeks ago. And my family and we were walking around California Adventure, and all of a sudden, look who walks up is one Matt Griffin. Yeah, what are the odds of bumping into one another
in a theme park?
At a theme park like that?
10,000 people.
Thousands of high school seniors. What do you think of that? That's how California does it. But
yeah, it was grad night. That was it got a little hairy there at the end. No, you have a lovely family. It was nice bumping into you, and thanks
Yes,
for
I do.
the
Thank
recommendations on the rides. But I actually think that the odds in that situation are much better than you might imagine.
You think?
Both of us knew that we were in the same area, and I think quite a few of our people we know were kind of, had a little free time, popped over to the park. So it is a big park, and of course you have Disneyland and California Adventures. So, maybe 1 in 100 or something.
Something like that.
Yeah, that's what a number I would assign. What would
Okay.
you say,
I'd sign
Mumford?
off on that, yeah, and I agree with you. That's where I was going to go with it. Is better odds than usual because you were both there. So, but still crazy. It is
Still
a
kinda
huge,
crazy.
huge park. There are lots of rides and lines and lots of ways to get lost there.
Okay, so I've got my list here. I'm in no particular order. Just let me throw out a few here. What are the odds of me speaking Spanish better than Beto O'Rourke?
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
I don't know about that. Have you heard me speak Spanish? But pretty good. Yeah, Beto.
Can I just say something on
Yeah,
that? Have they introduced the idea that when you get asked a question you're uncomfortable with, you can just start answering in a different language?
Who did
Because if
that
you
at
can, I'm going to just start doing it, and in my own, maybe a language of my own invention at times. But when I get hit with a hard question by my boss, I'm just going to start rambling off and be like, "Well, that was in a language. I'm surprised you don't know."
Now, you're a Cubs fan, right, Matt?
Yeah.
Sammy Sosa was with the Cubs, right, when he went and was asked to testify. And what happened? Remind me.
Yeah, he selectively speaks as bilingual, I guess. he kind of
When under oath? That was pretty good.
Yeah.
Mark McGwire at least struggled through it, and Sammy Sosa, I'm still trying to figure out what he was saying. But, okay, what are the odds of this podcast going viral?
Wow.
Better question. What are the odds of anyone listening to this podcast?
Well, we know that.
We know we have 3 or 4 listeners already.
Yeah, so I mean that's good. Good answer.
what are the odds that that we can surpass 100 listeners an episode?
Oh, I think we're there.
By the end of the year.
Yeah.
We're already there.
Yeah, we're close.
Okay, so
yeah,
what's
we're
a
close.
good goal then? And let's check in with this in a quarter
I don't
or
know.
next
I
year.
mean, what do you think? What's the
Surpass 100 listeners?
yeah? Or what
per
would be?
episode, on average, I'm saying.
Okay, averaging that. I mean, I think if we give it another, maybe by this time next year,
'Kay.
we're over that point. It's one of those things where it takes a long time to just get going, and then there's always that little tipping point, like the Malcolm Gladwell book. It's like that. It has to get to that point where the right, handful of people that connect to other people have heard it. So
I don't know.
it's
It also, I guess, podcasts do go viral to some degree, but it seems like most of those are the a series, a 7-episode series
Yeah.
that focuses on something. It's hot, it blows up, it's topical. It seems like most of the really sustained ones, it's just a slow build, and it's a lot of work and a lot of content, and yeah.
Well, we're going to commit to that. So, listeners of this podcast, Nate T, Dim, Aaron Spate, Mac, Everett, Peter. It's
a growing list. I mean,
so that's a few shy of 100. Is that what you're saying?
Our goal, Jeff, though, should be no matter how big we get, we can always list them all by name.
Sam P. Sam was on the show. Laker fan Ryan. So
Laker fan Ryan.
We're getting there.
Let's
All
not
right.
forget.
What are the odds of winning the lottery? Chand is always, our producer, is always trying to get me. She's always going down to Texas, and she's like, "Hey, I'm getting a Powerball ticket."
Which lottery?
Any of them. Does it matter?
Yeah, because population size, lots of things
Well.
factor into it. You clearly haven't studied the lottery. have you?
Well, I haven't done very well. All right. What are
They're astronomically low, right? Because you have to pick the right numbers. It's not just like someone in the state of Texas will get this right. It has to be from a pool of people selecting numbers, and then they have to select the right 6 digits or something like that. That is insanely low. I mean, I don't even know if I know what that number is, but it's got to be.
Do you know any lottery winners?
No,
Do you have any friends who know any lottery winners?
I don't think so.
I have a former boss who didn't win the whole thing, but went up to Idaho and bought a ticket and won $300K, which is of course your boss wins that. He was very careful to keep that secret just because of the incredible resentment that no doubt everyone would feel. So maybe you qualify him. I know a lady who won a $2 million jackpot on a slot machine. I don't personally know her. My wife knows her.
She doesn't listen to the show.
Not yet, but maybe
Okay,
now that she
maybe
knows,
we
she's
need to
been
reach
shouted
out.
maybe she doesn't want her name out there. Like, this person has lots of money.
I was going to
Here's
say
their number. But
Yeah, that's
anyway.
So here's a few things that we do have some numbers to. So odds of being called to come on down on The Price is Right. 1 in 36 is the correct answer. So those are pretty good odds.
1 in 36?
I think that's based on how many people are
Like, go
in
to the
attendance.
show.
Yeah, so I mean you have to be in attendance, but
Well, you know,
if you're in the house,
usually
1 in
too bad.
36.
it seems like a lot of those attendees go in groups, maybe at least couples, but a lot of times larger groups. So, I mean, that's pretty good odds if you're in a group of, say, 5.
My sister and
that
brother-in-law
attends and gets in that
were I don't want to say contestants. They were in the audience. They were not called, but
Right.
and that's kind of crazy. You have to get there early and
There
whatever.
is a
but
documentary. I'm blanking on the name of it, but I'm sure our listeners, can just Google Price is Right documentary. There is a guy who literally he studied the show for years. He was a huge fan and kept a spreadsheet of
Prices.
items and prices. And when he got on the show, he of course just killed it. And but he was notorious he attended many times before he actually got called down. And he would people who got up there would actually look to him because he had built a reputation, and so they would look to him like, give me advice, and he helped many a contestant win. So
was that back in the Bob Barker days? Or
yeah,
is that Drew
yeah.
Carey?
So,
Bob Barker.
It's a good question. I think it may have overlapped. It may have run into Drew's.
No disrespect to Drew, but I think Bob is the
He's
the
the
landmark.
OG, man.
The one thing I will say about Drew is I'm really happy that he continued Bob's Get Your Pet Spayed or
Oh,
Spayed or
yeah.
Neutered,
That is
Totally.
true.
He
That is
could have
true.
changed that and went with his own calls or no calls, but
Yeah.
he stuck with it.
Stuck with his
Classic.
signature move.
Price is Right, man. The show of sick days all growing up,
That's
right?
it.
In grade
That's
school.
so-
When you're
that's so
watching
true.
that, you're thinking about, hey, I'm not in class. I'm enjoying some Price is Right.
Right.
And life was good, even though you were sick.
It's followed by soap operas, though, which
Yeah,
that was the worst part.
That
you
was
know?
tough.
come
Go
on.
from Price is Right to video games or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You had to do that. All right, odds of being audited by the IRS.
I've been audited once.
Have you really?
And this is, I was
Really?
talking about this the other day, and this was, I was probably 22. I wasn't making, hardly anything. I was just out of college, and I remember getting a letter saying that your whatever you filed last year was inaccurate, and I owed $75 or something. Like, really? Like, you're coming after
the big bucks because that's going to move the needle for the government,
but
right?
Of course, at that time as a
$75 is
struggling, that's $75. I got to send the IRS $75. So I've been audited once that I know of.
Well, that's funny because I didn't know whether we would classify that kind of situation as an audit. I had the exact same thing happen.
Okay,
I had a,
maybe that's not a true.
I had
audit,
had a
but-
return. I mean, I don't know. But like I'd had a return that either didn't get submitted or I didn't claim enough or something like that. And this was years ago. I mean, it was like same kind of thing. I was probably like 24, 25 or something. It wasn't necessarily for a ton of money, but then they hit me with, your current returns have been like embargoed and like you have to come pay all this. They're like, we're going to use what the return was going to be and then you owe this. I like sent them a letter and I was just trying to make this appeal of like, why didn't you tell me the next year rather than wait 10 years or whatever it was,
Right.
like, until you tell me? I was kind of like, is there a statute of limitations here? Can you, like, honestly, this is so arbitrary. And it's like, anyway, no, the answer was no. And so I had to just pay it. It wasn't a devastating amount, but it was annoying. You're expecting to get money back, and I ended up having to pay it. So
I think everybody.
odds have got to be.
I would
like
say that
1
almost
in
everybody
2
gets audited
almost.
once in their life, right? I mean, if you, I don't know, the average number of years an American files, but probably 50 years or something that
Yeah.
they file, So I mean,
So yeah, looking at that one in
right.
160, you would think over time.
Is that? Oh, did you say?
Yeah,
that?
yeah,
Oh, sorry. That is the
but-
actual odd. Okay.
Yeah,
One in
Yeah.
but is that
160.
in a lifetime or a given? It can't
I
be in
don't
a given
know.
year because they're
Well,
certainly not running that many audits. You would hope not.
I wonder too whether, again, how they're classifying an audit. I always imagine an audit being like, I have relatives who run their own businesses and stuff like that. When a small business gets audited, they have to, produce all their receipts. They have to. It's this insane process. So that's always what I think of with an audit. But Matt might be right. It might be just more so that they take a look at your accounts and then take another look and do some. They would have had to have done that to
Yeah.
figure out that I hadn't
Right.
apparently paid enough one year. So
Sports fans,
Good times.
You love this talk about
the IRS and taxes.
This is that left turn we were talking
Have we
about.
gone viral yet based on this?
Yeah.
We've got a bunch of auditors listening to us. Okay, Matt, let's go sports then.
Okay.
What are the odds, and I don't have a figure on this, but we were talking about this the other day. What are the odds of being hit by a foul ball?
Yeah.
And if you're at Dodger Stadium, those odds go way up, right? And there was recent news on this.
Yeah, let me pull this up because I did not look for I don't know if it's out there, the odds, but I do know that Real Sports has actually been doing kind of a continuation story on this for a few years now. Probably 7 or 8 years ago when they first reported it, and last year they revisited it. It's something like 3,000 or 4,000 people a year get hit at major league and minor league ballparks combined, at all professional. And among those, of course, we hear about the worst cases. But just this year alone, and just this month or last 6 weeks alone, there have been 3 or 4 really serious injuries. 2, I believe, at Dodger Stadium. That have made big headlines. And so, we had this conversation briefly yesterday. I read that, Major League Baseball, I think since 1913 I read, there's been fine print on every ticket sold that basically absolves them of any liability. So it is extremely hard to sue MLB apparently. Of course, I think most teams probably try to do a quick settlement, probably pay for medical bills and stuff like that, and try to keep it kind of behind the scenes. But there's been a huge, I think MLB fans, they've done polls, and 70+% of them agree that the netting needs to be extended, and further at least. In Japan, they actually this was part of the Real Sports segment. They do netting all the way down to the outfield, to the foul poles, but they do have a couple sections, kind of on the foul lines there in the first few rows that are unnetted, and they pay extra for kind of the excitement, knowing that they're in the
splash zone.
They
if you
do
will.
require everyone to wear helmets.
Interesting.
So, but it's kind of it's part of the excitement, and you pay extra. So, I don't know if America will ever adopt something like that, but I definitely think it's beyond time to extend the netting a little bit and do whatever they can.
Well,
so
if
the odds are too high to answer your question.
Yeah, they definitely are. And if you're sitting on the first base or the third base side, I mean, right down there in the lower deck, I mean, you have to be paying attention at all times because
they come screaming.
Unbelievably fast.
I think I would be in favor of at least extending it, because there is that range where the ball comes in really hot, right? Like if you're just compare it to somebody who's playing in the infield or something like that, on the actual diamond. Line drive could really injure somebody on second base, a shortstop, something like that. Obviously the pitcher, but like once you get into the outfield, that virtually never happens, right? I think if you just kind of extended it to that point, where at that point it's going to start to lose some of its speed and it might not be quite as dangerous, you could do that. You'll have people who will complain like crazy, though. They'll say that you're changing the sport, this is part of it, they like to be able to catch a ball. In most games I've been to, there's always those kind of like people are like season ticket holders who are jumping out and catching it, or they're knocking it down. They're kind of pros that know the drill, but they're not always going to get to it, and there are those cases, unfortunately, and it's sad. I mean, you have some really severe injuries that happen. So
I would imagine that switching sports here, that in hockey they probably did not have the glass way back when, right? But it's like, oh my word! I mean, a puck comes flying. I don't know if you've been to a hockey game, but I mean, those hit the glass and it gets your attention.
Oh, and the ushers even at hockey games, they if you go get a beer, go to the bathroom, and you're coming back to your section, they are very diligent to not let you back into your seat until play is at a safe stopping point, for a few seconds, so that there's no risk of getting hit by the puck. I've been to several Preds games, and I've actually seen somebody get hit.
Have you really?
Despite the glass, it still occasionally happens, and it's I don't know what the puck weighs, but it's it can do some damage.
It's heavy.
Sure.
Well, if you've ever seen any of the the goalies that have taken one in the neck or something like that, I mean, it's not pretty. So
you got foul balls coming at you in baseball. You got pucks coming at you in hockey. You got Ron Artest, man of world peace, coming at you in basketball. I mean,
you got
I don't know.
Ball in golf, right? I mean, there have been some nasty hits there.
That is true.
There's nothing you can do there. I mean, at the end of the day, and the weird kind of custom that's emerged is that the player gives them their nice watch or something, which I'm always like, thanks, but I mean, what about the golfer that's wearing a Timex or something like that? I mean, they're just cheap on it. That's not going to work. So,
hold out for more.
Yeah, hold out for more.
Be
like, thanks for. Does your watch have your lawyer's phone number on it?
Right.
If that's the case.
All right. What other odds? I want to get into what are the odds that LeBron James wears number 23 next year. 0%. You guys hear about this?
No.
He's given 23 to Anthony Davis.
Really?
So last night, I think he sent out on Twitter that he'd be wearing number 6 this year, if I'm not mistaken.
What did he's worn 8? Correct me if I'm wrong. Did he wear 8?
Kobe wore 8. Kobe was 8 and 24.
LeBron has been 23.
23 or 6. He was 6
okay,
in Miami.
6 was that was his Miami number. Okay,
Miami
I got
number. Okay.
Interesting.
So,
well, we all know that 23 has that hallowed thing, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to wear it as a player, there's this presumption about yourself, right? I think Kobe even wearing 24 was like, I'm like the next step, right?
One above.
I'm kind of that next iteration or whatever, right? So, and then obviously you have plenty of players that have totally skirted the whole thing, but it's kind of this interesting symbolic thing, right?
Who was the player that wore the number they were drafted? Was that Rudy Gobert? I'm trying to remember. There's somebody that wore that number.
I feel like that's probably been done more than once, but that's. I want to your staying along these lines here. One of the questions I had is, what are the odds that LeBron, now that he has AD there, gets to a finals? Not saying he wins a championship, but just gets to a finals with the Lakers before he retires.
That's a good question. Chris, you want to take that first? You want me to go?
I don't think that they're great. I don't think that they're terrible. I think it's maybe like 1 in 3.
Okay.
I think it's like they're not like 60+%, which I probably would have put it when he was playing in the Eastern Conference, right? Like that it was better chance than not that he was going to get there at the very least, right? In the West now, I mean 1 in 3 might be a little favorable. I'd be interested to see what 538 or one of those. I'm sure they've got odds on it right now, and I'll bet it's not great. I'll bet it's in that 1 in 3, 1 in 4 or less range.
I mean, I think it jumped way up there once they made the trade, but then I think
doubt.
you look and you're like, they're still a piece or two away. Now, you heard the news. They can get a max player.
Yeah.
They worked out those details, some of the back-end stuff. So I think we'll know more in a week with kind of how things shake up. The one thing that I will say, to answer your question, I think the odds are better in that I think that LeBron took last year as a necessary year to play, but he didn't give it his all, and he shut it down.
Yeah.
And if you look at his career, he has been playing in finals after finals after finals.
8 straight, right?
And if you add playoffs and finals, I mean, that's seasons that he's played on top.
Yeah.
So I think the odds are better in the sense that I think last year he kind of took a break.
Yeah.
And the season before, don't forget, I don't think he missed a game. Or not many. He played
I mean,
more games in that
he's
season than he had in
been
several
very
years.
consistent.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is I feel like he's a little bit he's going to be dangerous. And I've made the comment, I think he's past his prime. Clearly, I do think he is past his prime, but a past your prime LeBron is still better than 90% of the NBA, wouldn't you say? I mean,
and I think you're right. And I think that is I actually think having a 1 in 3 chance at the finals is actually really good. It's not, let's make no mistake, it's just not as good as it's been in the past, and it's not this foregone conclusion. And I agree with you, Jeff. I think absolutely he knows when to turn it on and turn it off, and obviously he wasn't playing at full speed last year. But I'm kind of with you. I think he's starting to kind of head into the back half of his career. We all know he's incredible and capable of a lot, but he's going to definitely need more than just Anthony Davis there. Anthony Davis is a great player, but if you've got no depth around you, my guy Kuz from the University of Utah, there's one of the few that they kept on that team, which is cool, and I was excited for him, but I don't know that he's a major player on that team. So I just think that they've got more work to do, and I just think, and maybe too much is made of this, but I think Western Conference, man, you've got to play these top flight teams 4 times a year unless they change the schedule, which I don't think would happen before next season.
I don't think so.
But that's insane competition. Whereas in the East, you play the Knicks 4 times a year. You play Charlotte 4 times a year. You play these other teams that just aren't there. Cleveland, right? And in the West, we only get those guys twice. That's a lot of extra load. And then if Kawhi were to come to the Clippers, I mean, that's just another huge barrier for him. The Jazz are now a real threat for them. I mean, they've got you bring in AD, but we've got a big man that defends better than anyone in the league. I mean, according to the awards. So,
can I quickly get? We haven't talked about Mike Conley Jr.
Yes.
Quick, just take on that.
Yeah.
I mean, because Memphis, he is just an incredible human being and a really good basketball player as well. So, I was actually kind of happy to see him go somewhere else where he has a chance to at least make a deep run in the playoffs potentially.
Well, and the trade I think helps Memphis in that it's hard to kind of move on from those iconic players, franchise players, but they just drafted Ja Morant. The future.
There's a lot of excitement around that as well.
So I think moving Mike Conley helps them from the Jazz perspective, and we talked about this the other day, but slam dunk. I mean, I think Mike Conley, you're talking odds. If you look at it this way, so the Jazz were in the playoffs. If the Jazz make the playoffs, they have a 1 in 8 chance, right?
Yeah.
I mean, looking at those numbers being there's 8 teams.
Right.
I would think that this trade makes them, elevates them, you would hope to one of the top 4 seeds to be, have home court advantage. So I would put the Jazz in the same odds, 1 in 3, 1 in 4 chance,
absolutely.
something like that, which, again, might seem a little homerish, but I don't think the Jazz are done. We debated whether they get rid of Favors or not. I'm torn. I mean, I think his contract.
Hopefully not for Mirotic or somebody like that.
Yeah.
I don't. I'm not a fan of that move if they try to make that personally. But.
Yeah. The other day, I mean, I shared my thought is I think you keep Favors. I think you keep your pieces, and then you assemble some role players to kind of play around these big 3. But yeah, we're thrilled to get him. Seems like an awesome dude, great player, like you said, and everything we've heard out of Memphis. And again, you're from Memphis, and your perspective is that he is just a stand-up guy, guy that you want on the team.
He's won the Sportsmanship Award, I guess, 3 times. I mean, that's incredible. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, he's incredibly consistent. He said all the right things in coming to Utah. One thing, too, I don't know that this is the case for sure, but I've seen some things out there that suggest this is the case, which is that the Memphis organization may have also been kind of inclined to do what was good for him as well, right? Whereas you took the case of San Antonio shipping Kawhi off to the Raptors, a lot of people looked at that as like banishment. Like they were trying to punish him in some weird way or put him in a place they knew he didn't want to go based on reports. But it seems to me like Memphis probably was kind of like, I don't know whether they talked to him directly, but they may have and kind of just said, who would you rather we make this work with? And like, we'd be willing to work with you. And that's classy. I mean, to me, that's a great organization.
Yeah.
So. And Ja Morant, is it Ja Morant?
Ja Morant.
He looks amazing,
Yeah.
man. He looks like an explosive, fun player. So that'll be cool for them.
Yeah, very good. All right, other free agent moves. We've got just a couple minutes before we head out the door here.
You want to stick with the odds theme?
Sure. Yeah, give me the odds on.
What are the odds that KD is not on a New York team next year?
I like putting it that way.
Yes.
I would say that I think it's only like a 20% chance he doesn't go, based on what I'm seeing.
You think he's there?
I think he's in New York, yeah. I mean, it's just the momentum around that's building. When you start seeing these reports stack up, he sold his house in Malibu. Why do you do that if you're going to stick around?
Would he go anywhere else? I mean, I look at it and say, I think he'd be in California, or I think he'd be in New York.
Yeah.
Would he go to, I mean...
You never know.
What
I
other
mean,
teams?
could some other team? I mean, I'm sure he's even sitting back, just kind of looking at it, saying, "Well, let's see what someone does." If somebody makes a huge play for him, you never know. Here's a question. I mean, do we think that his decision's going to be more motivated out of legacy? So is he trying to team up with a bunch of stars, or is he going to try to go repair his image now? I'll bet he sat down with his own personal team, and they kind of said, there's more sympathy for him right now than there's been for a long time.
Yeah.
He blew his Achilles. No one wanted to see that happen. I mean, simple, end of story. He can now play that comeback story kind of angle. That initially had me thinking he'd just come back to Golden State because it's like unfinished business.
Right.
Who could blame him?
Yep.
And I mean, it's not out of the question that he will.
$37 million also.
Yeah, and I mean, a boatload of
just
cash.
for next year.
But I don't know.
Who's he with? Nike?
I think so.
Okay. Do you think Nike is behind his Achilles injury to set up this long-term? I can see Dylan from Minnesota, cooking up.
Forgot about
some
Dylan as a
conspiracy.
listener.
Yeah, we didn't count Dylan earlier.
We're closer to 100 than I realized.
But Chris, that is a great point in terms of the whole kind of public image side of it, and something that a lot of fans probably don't really think about. But I would agree that right now he probably has more sympathy than he has had in a long time. And the question is, does his legacy? Does he want to blaze his own trail, or is he looking to land with some other superstars?
Yeah, I think he goes New York, or the one that I've been saying, and I don't know, I haven't looked at numbers, whatever, but he is a D.C., Maryland kid, is where he grew up. It would be kind of cool, I think, to make Brooklyn. I think New York, we've talked about that, Chris, multiple times. Get Madison Square Garden and Spike Lee going again would do wonders. Kind of the who's the guy? Theo Epstein, baseball executive.
Boston,
you win in Boston and then you win with the Cubs. It's like, is that guy not the greatest?
Incredible.
I think the same could happen for KD. I mean, he wins the ring. Arguably phenomenal, one of the best players, and then he goes to New York and helps put them. Now, I mean, make no mistake, New York is a terrible franchise.
Terrible.
and it's going to take some work and some time. But
That's what would surprise me a bit about it. I mean, I guess if he had in his long-term plans the idea of going to New York, now is definitely the time because you're not even going to play next year.
Yeah.
So you give them another year to tank. They could get another first.
Yep. You got a
top pick.
R.J. Barrett there.
So
nice player.
You've got R.J. Barrett, who they'll play from the season start through the end to get him all the experience they can. They'll tank. They'll be the worst team in the league. They'll get another top pick. And so I guarantee you that's all on the table for Durant, and he's sitting there just going, well, I kind of wanted to go back there at some point. Maybe I just do it now, and then they'll be set up well, and they'll have a top pick and some other assets they can move around. So we'll see what happens.
I think that's an excellent point. All right, you got another one for us, Matt?
Sticking with NBA, what are the odds that the Raptors represent the Eastern Conference in the finals next year, regardless of Kawhi's status? I mean, I think most people will assume that he's probably not going to stay there, although he could. But regardless, let's say he doesn't stay. I still think that and of course we have to see how other things shake out. But,
I'm a little lower. Milwaukee.
Milwaukee would certainly be.
Philly's another.
Because you had Embiid, who was not 100% apparently with Philly. Who knows what that means? Neither was Kawhi, right, is what they said. But, that was kind of the charge there. Milwaukee was close, right? It looked like they were going to win that series initially, and then I think because Kawhi was so clearly the linchpin, hitting those late game shots, taking over at the end of games and winning it, to me it does pivot so much on him. And so it's like, not knowing whether he's coming back or not is definitely hard. If he doesn't go back there, I think it's pretty low, to be honest with you. I think it's probably 1 in 10, if that, you know what I mean? It's not a very good shot. I think Milwaukee, Philly, or if the Celtics, I know it's all been fire and brimstone for them lately, but if they end up with Kemba Walker, they could actually suddenly really right the ship. Now they will miss Al Horford, so it sounds like we'll probably go to the Mavs or something like that. But I still think that they would still be in the mix, and with Kyrie's toxic presence out of there, they could easily
addition
get back
by
on
subtraction
course.
kind of thing. Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's low. I think Boston is one of those sleeping teams where I think we just assumed that they were going to be the team, and they just really struggled, and so we're kind of writing them off. But they have a lot of pieces. I mean, they've got a lot of talent there that if they could, like you say, add Kemba, get rid of Kyrie, I think they're in a much better position than they were this year.
Totally.
So,
last one I have, switching to golf. What are the odds that Tiger Woods has a top 5 finish at the British Open?
Man, Matt, you're bringing the questions today.
You know what? I'm actually gonna. My gut was telling me initially not very good, just because his health has been up and down. He kind of has ended up crawling into contention in a couple, not contention, but I mean he had a couple good, I think, late rounds.
Was
it at the U.S. Open?
Yes.
Yeah, he was doing okay. He just couldn't put it all together. He's just kind of an average, top tier golfer. He's not like a superstar like he used to be. But I will say this about British Opens. They're usually links-style courses. I think this is at a place that most of them haven't played before.
Royal Portrush. I'm not
Royal
super
Portrush.
familiar with it, but yeah.
But Tiger now, he won the Masters through his savvy and his gaming, and he knows how to scramble and how to grind. And these courses set up well for that. If you're a veteran who knows how to recover from trouble, who knows how not to compound mistakes, which Tiger is, I actually would give him decent odds to wind up there. He's obviously won over there plenty of times in the past. So he's not going to be intimidated. It all comes down to health with him, but I don't think it's one of those courses where he's going to bombing it on his drives is going to be the whole name of the game. Right. It's going to be what you do around the greens and stuff. So I could absolutely see him doing well.
What do you think, Matt?
I don't have high hopes. Maybe a top 10. I agree.
That sounds more likely.
I was having this conversation a couple weeks ago. I kind of wonder if the Masters, probably for the next 3 to 4 or 5 years, is really his best look at a major win. So. He's got, he'll have plenty of time to rest and to practice. Mm-hmm. He knows that course probably better than any other course, and better than any other player in the field. So I just, I think that what we'll probably see over the next few years, if assuming he doesn't have any huge setbacks with injuries, is that, probably a strong start out of the gate at the Masters, and then maybe this same kind of, just kind of tailing off. I mean, the last couple tournaments I've seen him in, he's kind of been up and down, but he hasn't looked 100% healthy.
No.
In some,
No.
just kind of getting around the course. And so, I just wonder if the Masters over the next few years is really going to be the best look at him actually catching or passing Jack.
I agree with you, and here's a conspiracy theory alert. Conspiracy. Ready for this?
Hey, Dylan, are you listening?
This is a
Yeah.
legit conspiracy, I think. I think the USGA will make their selections for the future based on Tiger.
That is.
I think that they
now
will,
how far out? Because they're already
They're
in the
ways out.
22, 23.
They're into the early 20s. I think everything beyond that, they will take a careful look at what sets up well for Tiger's game because he is that important to the game. And they will say, we're going to pick Tiger-friendly venues to put him into contention.
Not a far-fetched
I don't think it is.
conspiracy theory, really.
I think suddenly people will come to it's not even something that has to be openly discussed, but a few executives will sit around the table and you go, I think we ought to shift to these types of courses.
Even if he doesn't win one of those, the excitement and the build-up around it for the pundits and media to be able to say, well, he's won X amount of times at this course, he knows this course, to really build that up, just gets more eyeballs at least Thursday, Friday to watch.
He is. I mean, the impact he's had on the size of purses in the PGA, on everything. Other players are thrilled when he's doing well, right? It just attracts so much attention. So he's your brand in the PGA, and I think the USGA would totally set up for him in some ways to try to make it more Tiger friendly.
Yeah, I think you're right. All right, we got to go out the door.
Let's do it.
Any parting words, Matt? You're back on a plane here this afternoon. Safe travels to you, my friend.
What are the odds that I make it home safely?
Oh, don't say that.
What are the odds? Hey,
Really good, Jeff.
Oh no! Good point.
I forgot this. I mean, what are the odds that Matt moves back to Salt Lake? You dropped that you got a
Well, it wouldn't be
girlfriend.
back to Salt
About
Lake.
to-
It
to
would be
pardon me.
too Salt Lake. Never say never, but I like
You got a
I like the
girlfriend
setup
out
where I'm
there.
here once a month for a week. Never say never. Who knows? Who knows? But I'm pretty content right now in Nashville. Plus, we really need a correspondent. We need correspondents
is
kind
true.
of spread out.
Oh,
we need
totally,
a network
totally.
so that we can,
No.
if guys on the sideline will give me credentials, I will start attending.
There you go.
Well,
more stuff.
We appreciate
Yeah.
your priorities.
Yeah.
We got to get your buddy Maury involved.
Yeah,
He's
we
been out
should.
to the Titans
Yep.
and the Preds
Yeah,
and whatever.
he
but
probably has good access. That's a
why don't you
Start
take that on? Let me
tapping
make
into this-
assignments. Don't you like our
yes.
mid-air meetings?
Yeah, I
All right,
like
Chris.
those.
Yes.
I need you to get 3 sponsors for next
Follow-up
episode.
activities. Yes. Thank you for that.
All right. Well, thanks for joining. This has been good, Matt. Always good to have you in the booth. Chris,
great to be here.
you're the host.
Chris, congrats on permanent host.
Oh,
Love
thank
it.
you so much.
I really
lobbied
do.
hard for that. I had to resort to some underhanded tactics. But
I really
Happy to be
do
at the
love listening to you guys.
Well,
when I'm
thank you.
on the episodes, when
Thank
I'm not
you.
here, it is entertaining.
Thank you.
you.
We have a lot of fun. And again, it's cool that the audience is growing. We do appreciate our listeners because we wouldn't exist without our listeners. I don't know why I say that because we still would be doing this if no one was listening. But my point is, thanks for being there
pure.
for us.
We're keeping it pure.
Yeah, exactly. We've got the right motives. So for Matt and Chris, I'm Jeff saying adios from the guys on the sideline. Bye-bye.
So long.
Bye.
The opinions and predictions on this podcast are right 98.3% of the time.